There's a clip of videos or a series of videos on it's either YouTube or Instagram, whatever. It's like people going to I guess it's a fancy watch or jewelry store, and they sell these watches, and they have like a few of them. They're getting 50, 60, $80,000. I've seen them give them 100,000 cash for this, and they're always pissed off because they want more money. Where are they getting? They look like regular folks. Where are they getting these watches? I was thinking of taking some watches and selling them for big money, but I don't have any watches to sell like that, so I guess I wouldn't be able to do that. Steve Weiner here from GetRubix.com, and today we're going to start taking a look at Windows Defender Application Control, also known as WDAC. Yeah, I mean, I don't have them. I have like an old Casio electronic thing. I doubt they'd give me $100,000 for that, but although on the other hand, you don't really know till you try.
Get Rubix, solving for the modern workplace.
Okay, so in IT, we all have this problem and we're kind of afraid of it, and I'm going to walk you through it right now. So if this seems scary, I apologize. So I'm going to look for WinRare on the internet. I'm a random employee. I found it. There it is. I want to download it. I'm downloading the application. Maybe I'm a local admin. It does happen. Look at this. This looks like it came out of LimeWire circa 2001. I'm just going to click OK. I want to get all that malware or whatever else is hiding in this app, and it looks like I installed it. I'm going to open it up, and I've just installed and launched an app that my IT department might not want me to have, and here we go. So even though some of us are thinking, well, you definitely shouldn't be able to do that, or I have this and this control in place, the reality is this happens all the time. The best way to prevent against this now is to use something called Windows Defender Application Control, also known as WDAC, which previously was known as Code Integrity or Device Guard. Essentially, it's the evolution of App Blocker. I guess you would say it's another app control. It's a Windows feature that you can control from policy, and we're going to deploy it with Intune. And as far as requirements, you just have to be deploying an enterprise version of Windows 10 or 11. So this isn't going to work for you on Pro, unless something changed magically since we published this. And this gives you a lot of control over things you can and can't deploy on your machines. So I'm going to show you how to get started with it. We're going to do like an intro, and then possibly in a subsequent video, we'll get a little deeper in the weeds with it. All right, so let's put away that rancid machine for now, and let's in Intune navigate to Endpoint Security, and we're going to go to App Control for Business. Now there's two pieces here. There are the policies, and then there's the managed installer. And we're going to talk about that in a moment, but let's focus on policies for now. So to create a policy, we're going to hit create. We're going to call this WDAC policy, and we're going to hit next. Policy creation type. So what's available in the built-in controls? Well, a few things. The built-in controls first are going to give you the ability to put this policy in audit mode, or just, the regular mode, I guess it's called. Now, it is very important to do one of two things. Putting this in audit mode is a must if you're going to deploy this to a large number of devices. Audit mode is going to make the policy document in the event logs when an application would have been blocked, but it's not actually going to block it because that would disrupt your end users. So if you're not sure about something, you absolutely should do audit mode first. Or if you can, I would recommend, like anything else, taking a small group of machines, putting them in a test group, and then deploying the full policy. And then if apps get blocked on your test machines, it doesn't really matter. So you just want to be really careful with this before you roll out, anything to large numbers, which you should do with anything. We always say that. Trust apps from managed installer, enabled or disabled. So essentially what this does is, what is a managed installer? Well, Intune, you can set Intune as the managed installer. And what that means is anything that deploys from Intune is going to be a good known app and trusted. And we're going to take a look at how that works in a little bit once we get into making the policy. And your last option is trust apps with good reputation. So this is built around what's called the Intelligent Security Graph, also known as the ISG. So this is more than just a good known app list, right? It's an aggregation of data from Microsoft Defender and, the smart screen stuff they have. And it basically puts a list together of, known good reputations, known bad reputations, unknown reputations. So it's really powerful in staying current on apps that may be harmful to your environment. So it's always a good idea to take advantage of this, and I'll show you where that's enabled in the system. But that's really what you have to know. It's a component within WDAC policy that allows us to take advantage of this intelligence to make good decisions. All right, but you'll notice even with all this, it's very limited. So when we flip from built-in controls to XML, this is where we can create way more granular policy. So where do we get this XML? I'm going to put this link below. It's the App Control for Business wizard. This is the application you would download to help you create the XML policies. So you would download the tool from this website, which I love the wizard hat, and we'll download that. Okay, so that MSIX has been downloaded. Let's install it. There we go. So this is a very simple application, and it's going to walk us through creating a policy. So let's do that now. So the way these different policy types work, we're just going to focus on the first two, multi-policy and single policy format. Single policy is very simple. It's one policy, it does one thing, and you deploy it to the device to tell it what to block and what not to block, and that's kind of it. Multi-policy format is a bit more layered, so you can start with a broad rule to say I'm going to allow these types of apps and maybe block other types, right? Block bad apps. But then what you can do is you can deploy supplemental policy underneath it to then maybe whitelist certain applications, right? So we will talk about that as well, but let's just talk about a basic policy for now. So single policy format, we're going to hit next, and you have 3 modes. So the way this works is the most restrictive is on the left, default Windows mode. That is only going to break it down for you, it's only going to allow the device to launch Windows components and Microsoft Store applications, right? Office, OneDrive, Teams, anything that comes from Microsoft. Once you move into the next mode, you're also getting any additional Microsoft signed applications. So this is going to be anything outside of Office, OneDrive, and Teams, outside the core OS that Microsoft is still signing, but it's not necessarily part of that core. And I would say what I see most organizations use is basically everything we just said, but they layer on the data from the ISG, which we just talked about. So this is apps with a good known reputation. Chrome, Notepad++, Adobe Acrobat. I'm just, thinking of some that will run here, whereas things with a bad reputation won't run. This is probably the least restrictive to start, and then you can essentially pare it down if you want to. Now, it's important to understand that the less restrictive you are, you really can't get more restrictive. And what I mean by that is, let's say you started with this allow Microsoft mode, and it was all the store apps and all the core Windows components, and you're blocking pretty much everything else. You can then add supplemental policy to whitelist applications. However, once you start with the sign and reputable mode, you're allowing everything known from the ISG. The best way to think about the policy layering is you can always add, you can't take away. So if your base policy is, whatever, you're only allowing this many apps, supplemental, you can allow whitelisting and expand what can be allowed. You can't deny in a supplemental. So you can't say, oh, I'm going to allow pretty much everything. Oh, now I want supplemental policy to blacklist this and blacklist that and deny that. That's not how that works. So just something to keep in mind. So to kind of show you how this works for, we'll say, dramatic effect, let's do an allow Microsoft mode. And this is a fairly restrictive policy. So I'm going to call this, we'll just leave the default here. We'll say next. Then you have a bunch of options. Without going into all of these, something very, very important when you're in this mode, well, there's 2 important settings. Well, 3. Whatever, you get the idea. The intelligent security graph is what allows it to use that data to know if it's known good, known bad. The managed installer. Managed installer will turn Intune into a permanent whitelist, meaning whatever you're blocking, it's going to trust Intune regardless. And this is something we definitely want to take advantage of. And audit mode, yes, I'm going to turn it off so I can actually show you the policy. But again, it's just because we're testing. So these are all the rules that come from basically what we've set up. We can add additional rules. So if we know something very specific right off the bat, we can add a deny and add something specific based on a file path, a publisher, the hash, a lot of attributes here. And then we can add that to our list here. But let's stick with the basics for now. All right, so we're going to go ahead and let this build our policy. And now we have it. It's in our documents folder. So when we come back to Intune, we can upload what we just created. Allow Microsoft. It puts the XML there for us. All right, and we're going to go ahead and hit next. Okay, so I'm going to assign this to a group I made called WDAC test. And that's got my device in there. So I'm keeping it very controlled, and we're going to push that. Now, the other thing I want to do is set up my managed installer. So the managed installer is essentially a sidecar script that enables Intune, or the Intune management extension, to act as that managed installer so that the policy knows anything coming from Intune is going to be good. So let's say default managed installer, and we just turn that on. So let's wait for that to kick in and check in on the device. All right, so now we're back on the machine. Let's try to open up WinRare again. And you can see we immediately get the app control for business error. Well, not an error, it's telling us that the organization's blocking it. That's awesome. But if we download an app that came from Intune, like I have Notepad++ that got pushed, no problem. What about 7-Zip? That also came from Intune. So it definitely knows the difference, because if you recall, we set Intune as the managed installer. Now let's try another app like Putty. So I'm going to go look it up, download. There we go. There's the MSI. And let's try to launch that. We can't even launch it. And that's going to get a, installers sometimes get a different error. So it depends. However, if you do want it and it's in the company portal, which this is the alternative of how you should be offering things to end users, there's going to be no problem getting it from here. All right. And we can see here, Putty was successfully installed. And we have no problems launching it either. So anything that is either anything that is a core Microsoft app or that I have installed with Intune is absolutely fine. However, even previous apps like WinRare or even Chrome, which I got myself, just won't open. This comes up so often when I'm helping organizations move to Intune management for their PCs. They want to be able to block applications from being installed and launched. And yes, you can take the administrator privileges away. Yes, you can try to enforce folks use the company portal, but there's going to be situations where no matter what, users are going to go online and get an app, and that's what we want to prevent. So WDAC makes it really easy to set policy and make it happen just like we did, whether it's an app that exists already you don't want or a new app. We're going to do some follow-up on this. We're going to talk about the multi-policy format. We're going to look at some third-party community tools that help you create the policy. And then I'm even going to show you how to, set deny rules for just blacklisting specific apps. So a lot more to come on this. Let me know in Discord if you're using it, what your opinions are. I'm always interested in what organizations are doing, and we'll be seeing you.